this first meeting of 2025 for the Tax Expenditure Review Commission to order. And today is September 11th, 2025. Those of us in person are Representative Agbaje, Senator Clark, and Representative Smith are in person here in Capitol Room 120. And we also have members, Representative Davids and Senator Coran, on Zoom at this point. So just by the way, new legislation this year authorizes the Commissioner of Revenue to now call these the first meeting to order, and his or her stint is very short as a chair, or as we will be voting on that very quickly. But I do want to sincerely thank members for taking time and making the commitment to be part of this very important commission. It was set up in 2021. And, as you can see from the reports that come out, the tax expenditure budget right now is about $24 billion a year. Our general fund budget is $33 billion. And so it is part of expenditures, but part of expenditures that we typically don't talk much about, and yet it's a huge. So this commission is very important in taking a look at all of this kind of tax code areas that are a big part of the budget that normally do not come into the sunlight much. So the big thing is what we do in this commission is to review these various tax expenditures. We then evaluate, and then ultimately, as a commission, we decide, do we want to keep it the same, repeal it, or modify, and present that report and recommendations to the state legislature. So again, just a huge thank you for everyone being part of this. So at this point right now, just to make sure we have a quorum, Ms. Schnabel, I will ask you to take the roll.
Commissioner Marquardt.
Here.
Marquardt present. Representative Agbaje.
Present.
Agbaje present. Senator Clark.
Here.
Clark present. Representative Davids.
Present.
Davids present. Senator Klein. Senator Coran. Senator Coran, I see you, but I don't hear you.
I'm here. Hello.
Coran present. Representative Robbins excused. Representative Smith.
Present.
Smith present. Senator Weber excused. Senator Klein. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schnabel. And so at this point, what I'd like is to ask members to introduce themselves, including our very important ex officio members, Chair Gomez, and just, what district you represent, and then if you've been on this commission before. And I guess I can start. I'm Paul Marquardt, Commissioner of Revenue, and had prior served as a member, as an ex officio member. So very nice to be here. So I'll move it over. Representative.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Representative Esther Agbaje. I represent House District 59B, which covers parts of downtown and North Minneapolis. And I think I've been on this commission since the beginning.
Senator.
Hello, Senator Doran Clark out of Minneapolis, specifically Cedar Riverside, Northeast Minneapolis, and the University of Minnesota and its surrounding Southeast Minneapolis. And this is my first meeting, so thank you for welcoming me.
Very good. Over on this side, Representative.
Sure. Representative Andy Smith. I represent District 25B, which is downtown Rochester, surrounding areas. This is my first time on the commission, second term on tax committee in the House, and happy to be here.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Aisha Gomez, State Representative for District 62A, which is South Minneapolis. I serve as the co-chair of the House Tax Committee. And I was the chair of the House Tax Committee in 23-24. Before that, I served on the commission. And the commissioner, of course, is being modest, but this, he was like the author. He worked on this really important effort for many years. And so we're just grateful that you did that, and at an exciting time in this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Cran.
It's Senator Mark Ryan representing Senate District 28, Chisago and Isani counties. Just wrapping up my 9th year at the legislature. My first appointment to this commission, and looking forward to it. So spent quite a few years at the Minnesota Department of Revenue, and my 42nd year either working in and or somewhere around government. So I appreciate being here.
Thank you, Senator. Chair Davids.
Thank you, Commissioner Marquardt, Greg Davis, District 26B. I've been on the TERC committee for some years. I have the privilege of co-chairing the House Tax Committee with my good friend, Co-Chair Gomez. And Representative Smith is way north of me. And for the commissioner, we were talking about the Minnesota Twins 1965, who the second baseman was for the Twins.
The second baseman for the Twins?
Yeah.
It was Frank Quillisi or Jerry Kendall?
No, it was Frank. Yeah, it was Frank Quillisi. Very good.
Frank Quillisi, okay.
First guess.
Very good.
Thank you, Chair Davids. All right, so before we go to the election of chairs and a vice chair, I'd first like to have staff introduce themselves. But first of all, when this commission was set up, the bulk of the staffing was set to the Legislative Budget Office. And in the 3 years that we've had meetings and so forth, they have just, we knew they would do a good job, but they've done just a really excellent job under Director Larson and putting together agendas, looking at the analysis and providing all of that. And so just a huge thank you to the Legislative Budget Office. And I know we have a new staff member, I don't know, Vlad. Let's see where I make sure I've had that. Plurimod? Okay. And you are an economist? So we're going to bring an economist to the floor. So welcome to the committee. And I think you started in about July?
Yes.
Very good. So thank you. Director Larson, if you want to introduce LBO members that are here and kind of go around the table. Since this is the first meeting of the year, I think it's good for everyone to know who the staff's are.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner Marquardt. My name is Christian Larson. I'm Director of the Legislative Budget Office. And I'll just have, if staff want to go to the mic, they certainly can introduce themselves. And Christy wants to introduce herself as well.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Christy Schradel, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Legislative Budget Office. Thank you.
My name is Amanda Schnabel, and I'm the coordinator with the Legislative Budget Office.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Thomas Graney, and I'm a program evaluator with the LBO.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Lemieux, and I'm another program evaluator with the LBO.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jordan Peoples, and I'm a program evaluator as well.
And we met Mr. Plurimond just a few minutes ago. All right, thank you very much. Also, big support staff is from the Department of Revenue and really doing a lot of the research and providing a lot of the background information. And I know we have one here, and I think it's normally under the team of Eric Willett, but he can't make it here today. So who is where's the so the folks from Revenue, anyone who's on Revenue on the screen? Oh, I see Eric is here. Okay, he's here, but
Hi, folks.
on Zoom. Go ahead, Eric, please introduce yourself.
Eric Willett, Director of Tax Research, and we help support the work of the LBO. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I am present for this meeting.
Very good. And then there in the back there. So if you want to just.
Yes, my name is Ben Pulse. I'm also with the Department of Revenue. I'm the main liaison with the LBO and the Department of Revenue. So a lot of research questions get followed through me and quite frequently. So
Very good. Joanne?
Joanna Bears, Legislative Director at Revenue.
Very good. And then also is there legislative staff here? So I see some over on my left there. Patrick, would you want to start?
Sure. So I'm Patrick McClellan. I'm the House DFL CA for Co-Chair Gomez.
Mitch Berggren, Senate Taxes CA.
Very good.
Sam Wayne, I'm the CA for Chair Davis of the House Tax Committee.
And anyone else that, all right, so here's the team. So that's going to really dive into things this year. All right. So at this point, we're going to move to the election of chairs and a vice chair. And as we do that, I do want to thank Senator Rest for her chairing this last session. And also a lot of kind of some of the new proposals for this year, including having me open the first meeting, was an initiative that I know Senator Rest and others had worked on. So big thank you to Senator Rest for that. So because Senator Rest is in the Senate and the vice chair was from the House, we need to flip that now this time. And so it sounds like what will be happening is because of the legislative makeup in the House, we're going to have co-chairs like other committees. So we'll take nominations at this time for co-chairs that have to be from the House. So I'm open for any nominations.
Does it matter? It doesn't matter.
Representative Agbaje, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll nominate Representative Greg Davids as co-chair. Can I nominate myself?
You certainly.
And also myself to serve as his co-chair as well.
Representative Agbaje has nominated Representative Agbaje and Representative Davids as co-chairs for the TERC. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Okay, nominations will cease. So, Ms. Schnabel, will you take the roll on the nomination?
Commissioner Marquardt.
Slate.
Aye. Marquardt votes Agbaje and Davids.
Yes.
Representative Agbaje. Agbaje votes Agbaje and Davids. Senator Clark.
Agbaje and Davids.
Clark votes Agbaje and Davids. Representative Davids.
Davids votes Agbaje and Davids.
Davids votes Agbaje and Davids. Senator Klein excused. Senator Coran. Senator Coran votes Agbaje and Davids. Representative Robbins excused. Representative Smith.
Agbaje, my neighbor from the far south, David.
Smith votes Agbaje and Davids. Senator Weber excused. 6 votes for Agbaje and Davids. No votes against.
Congratulations to co-chair Agbaje and co-chair Davids. And so at this time, I'm going to pass the gavel over. And just for the meeting today, we're not going to exchange chairs. So we'll just move over. But from hence on forward, the chairs will be in the middle and I'll be sitting off to the side. But with that, Representative, I'll give you that.
Thank you, Commissioner Marquardt, and thank you again for everything you've done for this committee. Since Representative Davids is online, hopefully you don't mind if I chair from here in the room. So
that's just fine.
But we're gonna move on to the. I'll get the vice chair.
Yeah.
So now we'll move on to nominations for the vice chair, and this person will come from the Senate. So is there a motion for the vice chair from the Senate?
I move Senator Klein as vice chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Your real number.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Chair, can I nominate Senator Clark?
Yes, you may nominate Senator Clark. So nominations for Senator Klein and Senator Clark. Are there any other nominations? Oh, also Senator Clark, do you accept the nomination?
I accept. I suppose I don't know how we get Klein to accept it.
Unless Senator Coran, you're also available. Would you like?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Senator Clark accepts the nomination, and in the absence of Senator Klein, I think we would withdraw his nomination.
Co-chair Agbaje, I withdraw the prior nomination.
All right. Senator Clark withdraws the nomination for Senator Klein. Any other nominations? Seeing none, Ms. Schnabel, will you take the roll?
Commissioner Markwart.
Senator Clark.
Markwart votes Clark. Representative Agbaje.
Senator Clark.
Agbaje votes Clark. Senator Clark.
Pass.
Senator Clark passes. Representative Davids.
Clark.
Davids votes Clark. Senator Klein excused. Senator Karan.
Clark.
Karan votes Clark. Representative Robbins excused. Representative Smith.
Clark.
Smith votes Clark. Senator Weber excused. 5 votes for Clark.
There you go. All right, congratulations, Senator Clark.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. It's actually really not that bad. I held the position last. All right. So moving on with the agenda, the minutes of the last meeting, December 4, 2024, are before all of us. Members, I'll ask if there's any corrections or there will be a motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Markwart.
I will approve of those December minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes is before us. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All motion prevails. All right, so the next order of business is to share a brief overview of materials that the LBO has kindly prepared for us for the commission members. So the materials are in your binder, both paper and electronically. Electronically are on the website for the TERC. And then both Mr. Larson and Ms. Schradel will be presenting the information. So if you guys can make your way to the presenters table and then state your name for the record and then begin with the presentation. You guys want to move closer so you can be in the screen.
Just to be clear, this is the one we need?
Correct.
Great.
Yeah, we can see both of you. Great. All right, please proceed when you're ready.
Chair, co-chairs, and members, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk with you today. I'm going to pull some slides and make sure those are available to be seen as we make the presentation. And once that is up, I will begin. All right, is everybody, are we seeing the slides yet?
No.
No.
Try that again. Apologies for that slow start. So again, my name is Christian Larson. I'm the director of the Legislative Budget Office. And today I'll walk through a little bit of a background about the Tax Commission Review Commission, the work that's happened thus far, and kind of where this kind of jumping off point is for this year's commission. And then Ms. Schrader will follow up with a little bit of discussion about the reference materials provided to you in your binders as members. So the Tax Expenditure Review Commission was established to review the tax expenditures on the books in Minnesota to evaluate their effectiveness and fiscal impact. And as Commissioner Marquardt had mentioned, that this was passed in 2021, and the commission started meeting in 2022. And over the 2023 through 2025 session, there was some changes that happened to the statute, really kind of letting the commission function as it kind of developed. And so those kind of updated along with the growth of the new commission. And in terms of what the commission produces at the end of kind of what it is, the responsibility of the commission is at the end of each year, the commission releases a report to the legislature on the activity from the commission for that year. And so by February 15th of each year, the commission is to release a report to the House and Senate tax committees respectively on that year's work. And we'll talk about where those kind of how to access those reports when Ms. Schradel will kind of walk you through your binder material. So in terms of the work of the commission, again, if we're talking about defining the effectiveness and efficiency of the tax expenditure, there's really two phases in statute that are required of the commission. The first is what we call the initial review phase, and the second is the full review and evaluation. The initial review phase is one-time work. The commission has to do it one time, and once that happens, it does not necessarily need to come back to it. And the full evaluation review work, that is ongoing work. So there's a rolling cycle of kind of full evaluation. The initial review is really a identification of the objective of the tax expenditure. What is the policy objective for a particular tax expenditure? That's really that first initial phase. And what that includes is the Legislative Budget Office and the Department of Revenue and whoever else is working, collecting information and saying, here's what the legislative record, here's what academic literature says, here's what industry research says around a particular tax expenditure. At that point, we collect that information, we present that to the commission, and the commission reviews that information and either says, yes, that is what the objective is for tax expenditure. We approve that. Please go forward with the full evaluation. Or they'll say, no, really, we think the really objective is to do X. Please update the objective and we'll approve that. Or there's been times where the commission has said, yes, it's part of what was brought forward to us, and we also want to include something else. And so the objective is kind of X and Y. And so that's really that initial review phase is the commission identifying the objective. What is trying to be accomplished with that tax expenditure? And that leads then into the full evaluation phase. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but up until this point, we're really focused on the initial review phase as the commission. That's the work that the commission has been looking at. We're on the precipice of working into that full review and evaluation phase as the commission. The full evaluation phase, again, is ongoing work. There's a 10-year cycle that says each tax expenditure must be reviewed once every 10 years. And that really is a deep analysis of a tax expenditure. And there's 9 components of review that is required in statute that should be included in each evaluation that is presented to the commission. I'll walk through those 9 components briefly now. And so the first is just what is the annual revenue lost because that tax expenditure exists? How much revenue is lost the state would otherwise collect? The full evaluation has to include that objective statement that had been previously approved by the commission. We have to talk about the impacts and efficiency in accomplishing its objectives. So is it doing what it's intended to do, and how efficiently is it doing that? The evaluation should have a comparison of the effectiveness of a tax expenditure as opposed to maybe a direct expenditure program. So if we take that money that is foregone in revenue through tax expenditure, apply that to a direct spend program, what would be accomplished in that case, and can we compare that? A full evaluation should include the potential modifications to the tax expenditures to increase its efficiency and effectiveness. So is there ways that this could be considered to make it more fulfilling its objective? A lot of times this will be through looking at other states, local units of government, federal governments, other countries, and saying that they have a similar policy, they approach it this way, it has this effect, something of that nature. We have to look, the evaluation has to include the amount the tax rate could be reduced if the revenue lost to the tax expenditure were applied to a rate reduction. So what if we got rid of that tax expenditure and just reduced the tax rate for that tax type? What would that tax rate be? An incidence analysis of that tax expenditure has to be included in the tax evaluation for certain what's called a significant tax expenditure, and significant tax expenditures defined in statute. And the incidence is really saying who's really bearing the burden of this tax expenditure, or who's really benefiting, or whatever it might be. And finally, The eighth component of review, which will be included in the evaluation, is what are the fiscal impacts of other state and federal taxes providing benefits to taxpayers with similar activities? So what interactions are happening with other tax expenditures? So that's really what should be included in evaluations, which again, the commission will hear, respond to. And then there's a ninth component of evaluation, which is the commission coming forward with a recommendation to continue, repeal, or modify. And Commissioner Marquardt will lead us through a discussion on that later today. And so that's that ninth component review. Those components 1 through 8 is really managed through nonpartisan staff, legislative budget office staff, Department of Revenue staff, other agencies who may be impacted by a particular tax expenditure, coming forward, presenting a report, presentation, whatever it is to the commission. Commission will receive that information and then take and move forward with that component 9, which again is making a recommendation to the legislature. So those are the two kind of main pieces of the review process. To kind of get a sense of kind of where we are along that process, we have just a couple slides. The first is, again, that initial review phase. So in the most recent tax expenditure budget, the 2024 Department of Revenue tax expenditure budget report, there were 327 tax expenditures listed, and that tax expenditure budget report is really the core document for which this commission is building off of. So we have these tax expenditures, and then we're going to do a full evaluation of those tax expenditures. So there was 327. I think there's a few more following the 2025 session. So we're around 330 tax expenditures-ish. And say that's kind of the bundle of things that the commission needs to look at. The commission has approved objective statements for 45 of those. So those 45 have then moved forward and said, okay, Legislative Budget Office, Department of Revenue, please move forward and complete that full evaluation, and we'll bring that back to the commission. So that's kind of the piece that's completed. That leaves 280 plus tax expenditure objective statements to be identified, of which, if we think about internally to our office, we have probably 140 that could be ready for the commission. So as the commission's ready, we can move forward and provide some of that information to you. And that our hope is hopefully by the end of the interim, but maybe early in the next interim, that we're through the rest of those 140-ish that remain. And so hopefully those will be ready for the commission as the commission sees fit to see those. In the tax expenditure evaluation phase, then we have those 45. Oh, I can pause. Yep.
Oh, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, could you just talk a little bit about, because there's a much larger group of tax expenditures that are included in the tax expenditure budget, but could you just explain like the ones you omitted and why from, the group that we're going to be evaluating?
Director Larson.
So please, Ms. Riddle, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 327 is the full count, but there is some that are for federal conformity that the commission can decide to omit. And so those aren't called out separately here, but the commission could move forward. We do, even with those, as an office, we'd probably provide the analysis around the kind of legislative history of it, but the commission can choose to omit anything that's passed to comply with federal conformity. And Ms. Riddle, if there's anything additional we want to add.
Ms. Stradle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only piece that I would add is none of them are actually omitted at this point. Again, we're planning to provide an objective for all of them, but again, that caveat within the statute, which allows the commission to omit a potential review for a variety of reasons. And I'll actually cover that a little bit when we talk about the statute and the high-level overview. But again, we can provide whatever the commission direction provides to us. Thanks.
Director Larson.
And Madam Chair, one other kind of additional thought to that is the tax expenditure budget. My understanding is the tax expenditure budget, it only includes kind of actively used tax expenditures. So if a tax expenditure exists, is never used, that's not included in the tax expenditure budget, and so that's not included in this particular number. Those are technically exist in statute, and the commission certainly could consider reviewing those as well.
Any further follow-up, Representative Gomez? All right, back to you, Director Larson.
Thank you. So after after that initial phase, we also have the full evaluation phase. And so we had talked about those 45 tax expenditures that had an approved objective statement from the commission. Those now are ready to move forward to full evaluation. Currently, we've had within the Legislative Budget Office and in partnership with the Department of Revenue, we've started to touch at least 31 of those. So they're in some phase of full evaluation. Some are close to being ready for the commission for when they're ready for them, and some are certainly early in the process. And one thing I want to mention of the 45 it really doesn't turn into 45 separate reports. We can bundle some of these. And so if they have a similar objective, if they have a similar kind of target constituency, whatever else it might be, we can bundle some of these. So likely of the, for example, 30 ones that we've touched, I think are turning into something like 15 to 16 reports. So we can kind of bundle those together. I'm trying to think the other thing I guess I should have mentioned previously is that the Legislative Budget Office in statute has the authority to contract out some of this work of providing these full evaluations, and we have begun to do that. For example, we have one evaluation underway, which is the data center evaluation. We contracted that out, and that will likely be ready in November or December. But we think based on either the need for special kind of analysis and expertise, or just based on resources and kind of the amount of work that likely needs to come through with these evaluations, that we will continue to contract out some of that work. And I think probably the last piece to mention before I kind of pause is generally these evaluations take somewhere between 2 and 12 months, depending on the amount of data available. And so the more access to data, the kind of the richer data, often that leads to a more kind of robust analysis. So let's take a little more time, but somewhere between 2 and 12 months is generally the timeline for a full evaluation. And from there, I can pause before we turn it over to Mr. Radel.
Any questions from members?
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Commissioner McCord.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So Director Larson, so there's 45 that are in review that could be evaluated. So for this year, that's probably for this term kind of, that's going to be the amount, because you're saying 2 to 12 months. So new ones would probably be next year, another session, so to speak.
Director Larson.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mark, thank you for saying that because that was in my notes and I forgot to mention that. So the 45 that we have take us probably through the 2 years of what our staff can probably manage. And so if certainly other ones could come forward and we could reprioritize and move things around to get through kind of the next 2 year schedule of this commission, getting through 45 is probably a pretty good target. Certainly that's something the commission will want to move forward and set a schedule for review and whatever else that might be. But we think internally about 45 is probably what we can get through over a 2 year period.
Thank you.
All right, we can move forward with the presentation. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Christy Schradel, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Legislative Budget Office. I'll briefly review some material that the LBO has prepared in a binder for each of you, or it's also available via the link electronically. So again, these documents are in your binder or accessible via the links from the website meeting material. So again, in terms of background, we've created both paper and electronic versions of this TERC binder information. This is a process we used in the previous commissions and members found it useful. Much of this material is the same information we reviewed with you if you were one of the majority of members that was available to meet with us over the summer. So it will be a little bit repetitive, but I'll just cover the highlights of these documents. And again, just call out some high points. As a side note, we are working to create a resource page for commission members so that it's easier for you to access some of this information so you don't have to either be digging into an annual report or looking for a particular meeting agenda. So we are working on that again to make it more easily accessible for you to access the resources as we sort of pivot our work into not just the initial reviews, but also the evaluation phase of our work. So with that, the first document we have is the commission overview. Again, it's kind of the 2-page summary like our elevator speech, which has the really high-level information on the TERC basics. The document provides you, again, easy access to those 9 components that Mr. Larson described. I'll call out a note. Pause for a moment here. Let the technology catch up. I'll just pause for a moment. Again, this is the high-level information on the who, what, when, the 9 components. And this reference that was made earlier is covered in that note after the 9 components that indicates that the commission may omit a component in paragraph A if the commission determines it is not feasible due to lack of available data, third-party research, staff resources, or a lack of majority support for. And the commission has a lot of latitude to help define the work that we are researching on your behalf. With that, we'll pivot to the next document, again, which, give a moment here, is really just access to the statute. It's both the 2024 statute, of Chapter 3.8855, but also the 2025 First Special Session Laws, Chapter 13, Article 8 of the tax bill. The highlights of this particular legislation, again, there are some new requirements for the tax committee chairs when they impact a tax expenditure. The changes, again, are also codifying some of the previous practices that the commission had put in practice. An example of that is replacing the term tax expenditure purpose with tax expenditure objective and having the Commissioner of Revenue call the first meeting. The other important point about the statute change is that our annual report due date has changed from December 15th to February 15th. With that, I'll move on to the proposed 25-26 schedule of review. So this is really a schedule of review for evaluations. I don't want to miss the aspect of our initial reviews because we do, again, have evaluations with initial reviews as we move forward and coordinate with the co-chairs on planning and meeting agendas going forward. So you'll see on your screen the proposed agenda, schedule of review for evaluations. It's essentially what the TERC team is working on right now in terms of the work that we're prioritizing, and the evaluations are really in the order that the previous commissions have approved them. So you'll see the first batch reflects the first batch that the previous commission approved. So they're listed in 6-month time periods of anticipated completion. The schedule includes the tax expenditure budget reference number for both the 2022 and the 2024 published tax expenditure budget by the Department of Revenue. And then there's an example here of a bundle number that illustrates the point that Mr. Larson made earlier, and that not each individual tax expenditure will result in a single evaluation report. You'll see the example of both the wind and solar tax credit. They'll be bundled together and presented together. The 3 alcohol producer tax expenditures for breweries, wineries, and micro distilleries will all be presented in one. The efficiencies that we have when we can conduct the research on a tax expenditure that has some similarities from an objective or the taxpayers impacted, we're consolidating those. So again, that's just an example. And again, I just want to mention that the schedule is draft and can be modified based upon the direction of the commission going forward. And as Mr. Larson indicated, we do have capacity to consult for additional work of evaluations going forward. So again, it's really our proposed draft. You can also see we have the fiscal 26 fiscal estimate also on this list, which is directly from the tax expenditure budget published in 2024. Okay, the next link will take you to.
Oh, Representative Gomez.
Thank you. I'm just for my curiosity, on the second page, there's the gambling-y ones, the bingo raffle ones. And some of them are in lawful gambling bundle, and then other ones under the bundle name say mortgage registry. So is there some interaction with the mortgage registry or deed tax for those that I don't know about?
Administrator?
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Chair Gomez, that is actually error on the bundle name. I apologize for that. We'll get that corrected, but I will say that the mortgage registry tax expenditures would be bundled, the lawful gambling that are all part of bundle number 12. That is an error. Bingo at fairs and civic celebrations is a lawful gambling tax expenditure. So I will, point noted, we'll make that correction. I apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riddle. And then I think it pops up a couple other times for other raffles. So is that also the same typographical error then? For the smaller raffles and the credit for certain raffles?
Madam Chair, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Riddle. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is a proposed draft and open to suggested edits from commission members as you see fit and as you might want to organize the research on behalf of. Legislative Budget Office. So moving on to the next link. Many of you probably are familiar with this. This is a link that takes you to the 2024 tax expenditure report. Each of the annual reports is really a summation of the work that the previous annual commission worked on. So it will be a summary of all the work of all the meetings as well as the decisions by the commission. Now that the commission will be pivoting to hearing evaluations of tax expenditures, we may need to consider a redesign due to the size of evaluations, which right now are between 7 and 50 pages. So we may need a redesign of this and pivot to more electronic format. So with that, we'll pivot to the next link, which is really a link to the Department of Revenue tax expenditure budget. This is a listing of all the tax expenditure budgets that the Department of Revenue has prepared, not back to the original 80s version, but back to the early 2000s. One of the things that I just want to call out is that it's really helpful in the listing because it has a link. The summary list link has a nice spreadsheet that is easily searchable where you can see the tax expenditures that are rolled up by the 16 different tax types. And it has the year enacted and the 4 years of the fiscal impact that align with the most recently published tax expenditure budget from the Department of Revenue. The next budget from the Department of Revenue tax expenditure budget will be produced in November of 2026. So those are produced every 2 years. So our intention is to just give you some highlights of the material in your binders. We intend to bring the binders to each meeting going forward. You can choose to take them with you and we'll bring you a packet to insert in your binder. We can also add any additional materials based upon members' requests. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the binder material. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Radel. I'll open the floor to members if there's any comments, questions. Well, I'll just say thank you so much for this thorough presentation. I think it really helps kind of ground us as to where we are right now and what else we have left to do. I guess I have one question. I think you alluded to this already, though. So if we decided that there were a couple more that we wanted to add for an initial review, just to try to keep up with what's remaining, we would be able to do that as well. Is that correct? Director Larson.
Madam Chair and members, yeah, so the initial reviews can be moved in throughout. So I think it really depends on how the commission wants to start handling these full evaluations as well. So that hasn't been done yet, or the commission hasn't kind of heard a full evaluation. And so what that looks like in terms of how long a presentation takes, what's really expected, I think will really be developed this year and kind of set the standard moving forward. But we will, anytime we want to move initial reviews along with a full evaluation, say there's a meeting to say, let's hear these 2 full evaluations and these 2 initial reviews. We can scale the presentations accordingly for the commission, or we could have a meeting that's all full evaluations and then some that's more initial reviews or whatever else it might be that supports the commission's work. And that schedule review isn't set in any way. It truly is our internal work to say, like, how do we make sure that we're moving forward? But if the commission moves forward and says, I want to hear that initial review and turn that into a full evaluation, and we want to hear that in 6 months, we can certainly do that as well. So that what's provided truly is a proposed based on those 45 that were approved last year. That does not necessarily have to be the 45 that are heard over the next 2 years, or that exactly will get to 45 or whatever it might be. And then the initial reviews can be moved in throughout, and as we have those also prepared.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions? Representative Gomez.
Madam Chair. So can you, I'm sorry, I like have been at every one of these meetings, but it's been a minute. So could you like send us a list of the 31 that are in process? Or is there, or if there's a place that those are that you could point me to, that'd be great.
Director.
You got a lot of my faves on here, but horses, a cow isn't on there, and a couple of other good ones.
Yes, Director Larson.
Madam Chair, yeah, so we could certainly follow up and to all of the members and follow up and say, here's the one that have been touched at some point and kind of the expected outline of when we think they'll likely be completed and ready for the commission to hear.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. So the next order of business is to begin a discussion on how the commission might consider complying with component 9 in the TERC statute. And my understanding is Commissioner Markwart, you have a brief presentation on that. All right.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And so I think I'll have Director Larson and Deputy Director Schradel put up that slide. But as they're doing that, the statute reads that when reviewing a tax expenditure, the commission must at a minimum. And then you've got that clause number 9 that says, at a minimum, recommend whether the expenditure be continued, repealed, or modified. And so if you heard Director Larson, we got about 45 of these tax expenditures kind of queued up, ready for evaluation. And so we've had the review phase. And then as part of that evaluation phase is really this number 9, that we make the recommendation through the report that's now due February 15th in that report as to whether or not you want to repeal it, do nothing, or modify it. So I mean, this committee, the last 3 years, commission, you've had it easy. I mean, you haven't had to make any of these decisions. And it's like that wild thing where you're going up. That's where we're at right now. We're just going up, kind of enjoying. And then when you go over, that's going to be this next part where it gets wild and exciting and have to make these decisions. So at any rate, and so also the Legislative Budget Office has, as they've kind of contemplated this, looked at a number of states. What is there, around 30 states that maybe have something kind of close to what we're doing here. And what they've really found out is that there's not necessarily one way to do it that they've all agreed on, or a certain theme or so forth. And so basically what I'd like to lead on this discussion is how do we what's going to be the process for us, that as a commission, what would we like to do as far as doing number 9 after the evaluation on deciding. I would presume if no one does anything, then things just continue. Yeah. But then, do you modify it or repeal it, or what do you do? So with that, I think if we could put up the slideshow there. So the first thing I'd like members to think about here is some options of ways in which you could possibly do this. So one way could be an oral roll call vote. So for example, the chairs or a member could orally say, I make a motion that on tax expenditure X, that we modify this. And there'd be discussion on that. I'm suggesting that you would not take a final vote on that day, because it just would have been brought up. And then at the next meeting, then you would bring it up under possibly old business. And you would bring that motion back up. And that time people have had more time to think about and analyze. You'd have discussion and then vote. So that's one way to do it, is just kind of orally like that. Another one, and I'm going to ask Mr. Larson, Ms. Schradel, to add on to any of these. Anything to add on to what I just said on number 1?
Director Larson.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Markwart, I think the only maybe additional pieces that you could have just a straight voice vote and say, yeah, up or down, we want to move to repeal, modify, whatever, or have something more formed like a roll call vote. It's probably both within the possibilities.
Commissioner Markwart.
Yes, no, thank you, Director Larson. So, yes, so you could, you're right, you could just have or you could have a roll call vote on this type of approach. The second one would be a written motion where, again, the chairs or a member could put everything in writing and then ask members to then put their responses in writing. And before the next meeting, either staff from LBO or the chair could gather those written statements, bring them to the next meeting, and then have the discussion and vote that way. So Director Larson, anything to add on that one?
Director Larson.
Madam Chair, unless Ms. Schradel has something, I don't have anything to add.
And then the last one is kind of a combination maybe of 1 and 2. There is that someone would approach with a written recommendation there. Folks could respond again and then make a vote on that. And I maybe Director Larson, if you want to expand a little bit more on that one.
Director Larson.
Yeah, so this one is, Madam Chair and members, in this case, something that could, I guess this would be in a similar situation where maybe each member wants their vote recorded individually, that maybe the commission doesn't want to come forward with. We come with a shared final suggestion for the legislature, but rather we want individual votes or kind of groups of votes shared separately, so that we say in the final report gets included the recommendation from each member, and it's a documented form or something of that nature. Again, this is kind of new territory, so we're not 100% sure exactly what that would look like, but some kind of more formal kind of documentation that each member gets to have their voice seen within that final report.
Commissioner,
No.
Deputy Director Shadle.
Madam Chair, I would just say most of these are really in order of sort of least to more complex, and the sort of combination of oral and written is again intended to capture both, things that members might be in favor of, but then also capture those members that may not necessarily agree with the motion. So I think this is a process that the JLARC in Washington uses, but again, a combination of kind of oral and written. But again, we're completely open to how the commission would like to proceed with this, complying with this component. Thank you.
And
Commissioner Markort.
thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, my intention would not be for us to decide on something today on a process, but if that'd be all right with you, Madam Chair, to put it on the next meeting's agenda, because I do think at the next meeting, though, we should decide what the process will be, because we're going to start getting these evaluations done. So, but not today. Let people think more, just kind of throwing out the options at this point. And a fourth one is something that the state of Massachusetts, thank you, is doing. So we can move to the next slide, which is a template for evaluating. Just throwing it out there, if members would want to actually have some sort of a chart where you would look at things and rate as to your agreement or disagreement with various aspects of a tax expenditure. Just if you wanted something like this as part of another one of those processes, is just something. Now, the state of Massachusetts, I guess, has a pretty extensive, how many economists and everything else that just are on this committee. So they're probably a little more staffed than we are as far as some of the resources, just to keep in mind if we were to go to this type of an approach. So I'm going to, okay. So
Representative Smith has a question.
Sorry, just clarifying question on this template. Who is filling out this evaluation? Is the staff that is going to fill out each individual member of the committee as a singular whole?
Commissioner or?
I think staff would be.
Deputy Shadle? Deputy Director Shadle?
Madam Chair, in the state of Massachusetts, the members of the commission are assigned to complete one or two for each hearing, and the state of Massachusetts actually reviews 5 to 7 evaluations in a hearing, and they really have pretty consolidated short meetings. They also have a very their commission actually consists of professors from various institutions, including MIT and Harvard, right? So their members are doing a lot of homework. So I hope that answers your question.
Representative Smith.
Yeah, but I think so. But I just want to be clear that members of that committee, including brought in experts, are clearing this and putting this in front of the committee, correct?
Deputy Director Shadle.
Madam Chair, Representative Smith, that is correct.
Any other questions? I guess my question on the Massachusetts one, you said they're doing 1 to 2, like the members of the commission are doing 1 to 2 in a session, or like they're coming into their meetings with 1 to 2 of these evaluations already filled out?
Madam Chair, they're bringing them to the commission meeting at the same time that evaluation report is presented, and the material is all sent to them 2 weeks ahead of time. And so they assign 1 to 2 evaluation template per member to bring to the actual hearing for discussion. And it's our understanding that they're generally coming to a consensus on the majority of the template responses.
Okay. And are they then each member, the members that have the two that assigned to them, are they then making a presentation to the rest of the commission and then they decide if they're going to take it or not?
Madam Chair, I'd have to do a little bit more follow-up, but again, the conversation we had with the project manager of the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, TERC, indicated that they bring the actual template to the commission. It spurs discussion at the commission, and they ultimately come to a consensus, and indicated very seldom do they not have a consensus on the completed template.
Okay.
But again, happy to follow up with more details.
Yeah, we can talk more. So, okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Gomez.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this kind of checklist or whatever, kind of this way of trying to think about it. As I'm looking at the questions, I am thinking about some of like sort of the principles of a good tax system, which are to some extent embedded in the statute, like progressivity, which is also known as horizontal equity, is something that's or vertical equity is included in here. But there's sort of a couple of other things like economic efficiency and or even like sufficiency to like the whole purpose of taxes is to like fund government. And so that's a principle. There are just some principles of a good tax system and good tax policy that I think we could kind of incorporate more if we were looking at this specific list of questions. But I am interested in like just having more discussions with the leadership of the committee to think about about kind of like an approach like this, but maybe that pulls in some other ideas that aren't encapsulated in this list.
All right. Any other, Commissioner Marquardt, I'll leave it to you to wrap it up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Chair Gomez, I really like those comments there, because when you look at that template, it does get you thinking about some questions you might not be thinking of otherwise. And maybe we even use something like that informally. Members just kind of have that as they kind of go through, rather than having an official thing you need, whatever, but it kind of, like you say, members would look through that and, oh yeah, and actually kind of evaluate things, and you have a little more maybe objective approach to something rather than subjective. So I think that's great if we can maybe discuss that further.
Yeah.
And so the last one here is then, the logistics, the oral or written voting, kind of how do we get to whether or not we want to just leave it the same or repeal or modify, to then how do we what's the process we use? Kind of the second question today, if we want to modify or repeal. Certainly, if we don't want to do anything, there'd be no motions, whatever, and that would just be the default, so to speak, and it would go that way. So there's a couple. Do you have a slide for those three options, or on the? Okay, no. Okay, so here's some approaches that could occur, is because it all has to happen in the annual report is when you would do this. So you could have a report that could say, you know what, we think on tax expenditure X, there should be some modifications. And the group could put some modifications out there, kind of just generally, or just even say, you really need to look at modifying this. That'd be one approach. A second approach would be for the commission to literally come up with the specific policy change. So you would say, hey, this is how we would like to see the specific change. So that would be in the report. We think it should be modified. Here should be change. A third approach would be, would the commission put together a legislative bill that would be would be more detailed, saying this is what we want to look at. So the first one would just be general, and there might be other options, but one general, we think there should be modifications, and maybe the overall we could put a few in there. The next one would be a specific language on a modification that would be included. And the third would be actually putting together a tax expenditure commission policy bill with the full-blown language and so forth. So I guess I would open that up for discussion. Thoughts?
Yeah, we'll open that up for discussion. I think that's an interesting idea. I'll go ahead. Commissioner Marquardt, I guess it would really depend on kind of like staffing and ability and capacity to write a full bill to then present to the tax committees in both chambers. But I do think probably saying something a little bit more along the lines of what type of modification we want might be helpful. So that way we don't just kind of throw it to the legislature and say, modify as you see fit. So. Representative Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I think that one of the kind of, we really, and Commissioner Marquardt and our staff at the time put a lot of thought into how to ensure that we were like properly resourcing this effort and making sure that this doesn't turn into a report that we receive annually and stick on the shelf and do nothing with. And so, but there's I guess, for me as somebody who's invested in this process, there's always like, okay, we haven't done it yet. And like, we actually don't know yet if it's going to be really useful. We're putting all of this effort into it. You guys are putting all of this time and effort into it. And like, when it goes from this body to the legislature, that is like a test point of like, is this going to be worth all of this time and effort that we're all putting in? And so that's just like a lens that I think we need to view this work through, and that we need to think about as we're making decisions about process. And kind of in light of that, personally, I mean, just having this sort of instant reaction, I sort of like the idea of there being like every other year TERC policy bill that's sort of like just a thing that happens, and it sounds kind of boring, and maybe people aren't really worked up about it, or because always in these situations, right, it's like, I really care about tax expenditures. We all really do. We're not going to be here forever. Like, there could, so how do we like try to make some kind of mechanism that will, just like be there, continue after we're here? So that's like my initial kind of reaction to it.
Yeah. Senator Clark.
Madam Chair, thank you. I love that. I have the systems and process brain. And so the checklist and the tie to the objectives, and then the output is something boring like the claims bill. This is massively important, but just gets it done. So I love this cyclical idea, and I'm fanboying your little plan there.
That's great. I'll ask Co-Chair Davids, did you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Marquardt.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I suppose we could do like a base closure deal too, as we propose that, Phil. And if they make no changes on it, it automatically goes in. Isn't that how the base closure would work on the federal level? That would maybe not. So the last thing would be then again, and we don't have, is then how would kind of votes be recorded? So if we don't reach consensus, let's say it's not a consensus, how do we want to allow members' objections or whatever to be noted, and the votes, and just we kind of have to talk about that, and then we can put that on next time. But think about that as to just kind of how you would want that recorded, and making sure that all members of this commission would have the opportunity to get their point across, especially if they're not in agreement with what this commission's doing and so forth. So I think, Madam Chair, and let's Director Larson or Deputy Director Cable has
Any other comments?
something.
Director Larson?
I mean, Madam Chair and members, obviously, however the commission chooses to move forward, that's what we'll certainly move forward with and support. The one, I think, consideration from our office is the different complexity of these does have a resource effect. And so if it pulls from maybe an evaluation, having time to work on evaluations, whatever it might be. But I certainly think however the commission wants to move forward and kind of run that process, we could support.
Great. Any other?
Madam Chair, it would just be if you could put this on the agenda for the next meeting and if members would think about these things and so we could make some decisions next time.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
thank you,
And-
Commissioner Markwart. Following that. So our next item on the agenda is to discuss when we would like to do future meetings. So as I think Co-Chair Davids and I will get together and discuss with the LBO about like what a schedule and the agenda for future meetings will look like, and then we can reach out for that. But if anyone has any comments on what a good cadence is or anything, happy to take those now. Representative Smith.
Could I just ask, what are the ramifications for quorum for those physically present versus not present for future meetings?
Yeah, we make all of our meetings hybrid, so that way we can get quorum, so that way we don't have to worry about that part of it. So if you're online, you're still counted towards the quorum effect. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we will come back. We'll reach out to everybody's legislative assistants, figure out the availability, and start to get those meetings on the calendar for at least for the remaining of the interim, I think, before the regular session starts again in February. We'll want to have a couple of meetings so we can decide on Commissioner Markwart's proposal as well as ideas, and then and also try to see if we can start to move forward through some of these full evaluations before we get busy again. I don't have any other items, but if anyone else has any? No? All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here for the first TERC Commission meeting of the 25-26 term. I really appreciate all of you. I know Co-Chair Davids and I look forward to getting to know all of you through this work that we do here to make sure that our tax system is efficient and effective. Co-Chair Davids, any last words?
No, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to moving forward here.
Great. Well, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.